Hello, made it. 10 minutes late. Right. Still setting up. Right, who's here? Oh, we've got 3 on. Right, get this mic sorted. Ooh, 1, 2. That's better. Hi, Des. Excellent. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Scott. Hi, Des. Hi, Graham. Music machine. It is. I'm going to have a look at the music machine. I need to know where I am with things. Probably going to be splurging this morning because this week is slightly interesting. So I've had to make. So at the weekend's been my last sort of massive major blast at kind of doing economy picking. Like now it's sort of embedded in my playing. I can just do it my usual guitar playing routine. I don't have to go above and beyond, I don't think, now for a bit with it. I've got the economy thing down to a point. So I've got the mechanics down. It's just kind of going through older licks now and trying to see what I can use economy picking on, what I can't. There are certain circumstances where I can't actually use it, and it's straight alternate. But I'm pretty pleased with the results I've got so far, and I can highly recommend economy picking. It's definitely got a place in what I do for sure. Now, I wonder why there's all that kind of camera stuff up the side. Right, doesn't seem to want to go. Anyway, yes. So, thanks, Des. What a mission. I don't know, has it been 8 weeks or something? 8 weeks? 10 weeks? It was absolutely nuts what I've been through doing that. And, like, I'm amazed, actually, because it was getting that painful that I didn't give up on it. So, because there was some horrendous moments of doubt, thinking, like, oh. And the important thing about that is never pigeonhole yourself into it being a type of one thing or another. Yeah, I've had to. Do you know why, Des? Because it was a fight for survival. I've got to play every day, haven't I? And then I've got this, and I had this horrendous confused moment where I was playing with half a technique. I had half alternate picking and half economy picking, and it was awful. I was just like spluttering all over the place, and I couldn't do one or the other properly. So that was it. I had to make a stand. I really did. So I decided to push ahead because it's good to make changes. But the important thing is yes, don't. And I nearly went through that thing. Yeah, I'm glad you're with me on that, Des. But I think one of the most important things on reflection to this is, especially when you're getting older, is like just not to pigeonhole yourself. You know, we can do anything at any time, whatever we want, especially with music. So I'm glad, I haven't got, a label. I mean, if I think way back, well, it's a journey, it's a mission. When I think way back, I was like, I'm an outside picker. And it just, honestly, labels like that don't help you at all, do they? It just means I'm an outside picker, and that's what I'm going to do. What's stopping you from being inside? And when I realised that, there was nothing stopping me from being an inside picker. It's just I didn't have the information. So we base a lot of our beliefs on the limited information that we have. Right, schedule. This is a good. No, well, this is a good one, Nathan. There isn't a schedule. So, and I'll come to that. So, yeah, don't pigeonhole yourself. Yeah. So the economy picking's been a good one. So now I need to like back up, and then I need to start hybrid picking again, which I do. It's just wide interval stuff, and sometimes I just forget completely about the technique. We should get the grip. Absolutely. Completely. Does. I mean, the interesting thing is then the upkeep on it all, you know? So that's the bit I'm kind of, you know, do we just like practice the one that we really quite like doing at the time, or do we have to ruthlessly split it up into, I don't know, 3 or 4 sections so you could have, well, 3 things, you know? I don't really practice tapping, but I would, you know, do I practice alternate picking, hybrid picking, alternate picking? Because it seems like a lot. So that's the other thing. So, but it's you know, it all needs maintaining. I don't know. He listens, but you just don't know. Thomas does do a little bit like there is a little bit of economy in what he does, but it's like a kind of blues type economy. It's like he does like a little economy shuffle, doesn't he, here and there, to make things more playable. Which is actually how I started. I started doing the bluesy little kind of quick, wouldn't even notice economy shift, and then it kind of got a hold really. And then I was starting to look at the Troy Grady videos of Eric Johnson doing the pentatonic scales, and then I did 1 or 2 of those type licks, and then I thought, well, that's easy. And then whenever I was playing particular licks, alternate pick, and then coming to playing that, I was thinking, God, like I'm almost doing that, and I don't even have to think about it. And this is the important thing about economy picking, and there's been a shift in my playing. And from the last live, sorry, I've got an itchy ear here. From the last live I did, the mental shift I got from economy picking was I wasn't thinking about the technique. Weirdly enough, like a lot of times with the alternate picking, when I know I'm going to do a lot of it, unlike legato, there's this focus on the technique, and it's difficult because, especially when you're doing alternate picking and then there's odd numbers of notes and stuff like that, and you know you're going to be inside and outside picking, you're focused on that muscle memory. Whereas you're not like economy picking, you're not, because you pretty much, unless you do it my way, there is a little bit of alternate picking, but pretty much, right? When you're doing economy picking, you're just traveling in one direction, and you're using gravity as well, or the momentum. Gravity and momentum, and it's a feel thing, and you're not thinking about your technique. You're thinking about the music, and you're thinking about the choices you're going to make, what you're going to play. Need another coffee. So yeah, it's been amazing. And also, Rick Graham massively helped me as well, because you know I did have a crisis, which got sorted out, and he's the man for that. To be fair, because I had to be sure what I was doing. Right, okay, machine. Let's have a look at this machine. So, right, this week I've got to think about, right, morning sessions, right? So, morning sessions are splurging, discovery sessions, draft sessions, done sessions, right? But we've got, because Pet Flamingo is now into release, which was the track we were working on last week that we actually finished. So at least it's finished in terms of the release decision is made. I want to release it, and I want to just release it now, sort of thing. I was going to send it off to labels, but I'm just going to put it out. So what I need to do is, it's done. I don't know why my labels changed. Right. I've had a draft session. Oh, it didn't update, didn't I? We've had a draft session. Probably had a discovery. We've made the release decision, so it's in release now, so it's all color coded. Now, the reason I color code them, even though all my colors are changed, I see. So draft. There we go. So, that doesn't need. I have to actually do a release session on it, don't I? That's right. Take that one off. Okay, so it's in the release column, which means I have now made the decision to release it. In fact, all of these are tracks that I've made the release decision on. And actually, it's a solo project, isn't it? So this is the solo project stuff, so I'll put it in here, which is technically the release as well. McRocklin Hutch. There we go. I'm organised now. Yes, so I was wondering about that. So these are all the ones that have had release sessions done on them, and we've put solos on. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got 7 tracks there, which are nearly finished, but we need to do the mixing on them. Now, the problem is that I've got is I can mix on the morning live, but there won't be any mic, and I won't be able to talk to anybody. And also, potentially, it could be very, very boring, because you'll be watching me flick windows up and down, starting and stopping every 5 seconds. So I don't know. What do you think? We could try doing it tomorrow. But I think you're gonna have to let me. So basically, I'll be able to talk to you at the beginning of the session. I'll be able to talk to you at the end. All right. Yes, Nathan. So yes, there is convincing me to do an album, but I'll give you a good reason why I don't want to release an album. Yeah, give it a go. Right, I'll give it a go. So tomorrow we'll do a mix. Yeah. So the reason I don't put an album out, and it's a good reason. I don't think it's like, I like albums because, like, an album's a body of work, isn't it? That can tell a story. So, you know, I'm with that old school thinking, you know, where you have your 4 singles or what have you, and you have, like, you know, and then you lay your album out, and your album can be a concept, and you can tell a story, and you can still do that. But the problem with that is if you release an album, all of your shots are gone out the door in one go, and it's like one event, and then you have to, you know, that's it. The reason artists, yeah, so you like, it tells it, you know, it tells a story, which is, to be fair, it's you know, it's the right way to do it, isn't it? It's a body of work that's cohesive, you know, that's contrasting, and you've got that contrast and everything all in one space, and you can put it on, you can chill to, and then instead of going for a 2.5 minute journey, we can go for a half an hour, 45 minute, whatever length journey listening to the album. you know. And to me, that is the right way to do things, you know. However, as a struggling artist, as we are, me, right, by releasing a track at a time, each one's an event. So you're releasing a track, you're promoting that one track, and it's an event. You release another track, you can, that's another event. Then you release another track, that's another event. And then what you can do is you can release your fourth track and then release the other three again. And it's called waterfall releasing, and you'll see this all the time. So you release that track and then everything else gets released again. And then that all gets listened to, and you're bumping your listens up. So why do you do this, right? And it's because money's king, isn't it? So they say. So if you want to make more kind of money out of your Spotify, out of your listens, then that's a strategy to do it. Okay. Which it's not necessarily the right thing to do, but it is a way of doing it. I mean, there's like lots of things that aren't right with the way modern music is concerned. I mean, I've mentioned it before. We've got people have a attention span of a flea. Dare I say that? But have a daughter, 14-year-old, and they have access to all this music. They listen to one song here, one song there. I don't think they ever listen to an album. Will the single get as many? Well, that's the idea, isn't it? That's the idea. Mind you, I'd have to check back on Spotify, but that seems to be the so the attention span's shorter. Now this is an impact on music. So one, we're doing releases. Two, I'm starting to talk again. This is fine. I'll switch back 2 seconds. I'm going to do. So so the factors in that are, attention spans are lower. We've got far too much access to information. A lot of it we don't need, because as I said before, like last week, solutions to problems we haven't had. We can, like now with music, when you consume music, just like literature or anything like that, we're just, there's that much of it, it's that varied, we can just skim over the top. Nobody's listening deep. We're not really going deep, we're going wide, and that's not necessarily a good thing. When I bought an album, Racer X, that came to mind, right? Racer X Alive, one album, right? There's something that had a massive impact that was, that I was very conscious of listening to on a very deep level. It was on, I was listening to solos, I was listening to everything on that album over and over again, and I'd have just bits looped if I could, right? But we didn't have that in those days. But that was listening deep, wasn't it? That's really what you want to be doing. And I used to be listening to the whole album, as well as individual songs, working on songs. It was part of my, practice regime. I don't see that now, to be fair. And when I see teenagers, which, I have access to, listening wide, Yeah. So we don't need to go wide, we need to go deep, for lots of reasons. Money's the boss, so now, because we've got subscription for everything, we've got the subscription model for how our music is consumed, which is the way around, piracy and all of this sort of stuff. So now the artist gets paid 0.0048 of a dollar. Think about that. We should have a minute's silence for the fact that artists are paid so friggin' lowly for that. Well, I hope so. You never know. I'll have to push it, won't I? I'll have to, we'll have to promote it. We're going to send one out and then see where it travels. Great, thank you. It is sad, Scott. It's 0.0048, but so it was something like 257 plays to make $1, and the average employee in Spotify gets paid what 100,000 a year. Who's providing the content? Now I think they could try a bit harder, and I don't know why that is. Is there an assumption? Like sometimes in my experience, because people think, well, fundamentally when you do music, you're doing something that you love and you really, really want to do. And I think sometimes that gets a little bit abused, doesn't it? And people think, oh, well, they love doing it, so, we don't have to pay them. Oh, that's brilliant, Nathan. Thank you. It is an inversion. I'll give you another summary of this as well. So, what was that? Right, okay, so we're getting paid absolutely nothing for our recorded music for something, right, that was the main value. It used to be the tour supported the album, didn't it? The tour supported the album. The album would come out in the shops, and then you'd wait for the band to come round, and you'd buy the album, wouldn't you? And then you'd go see the band. And like now, we've gone back to pre-recording times in terms of like how music, the value of music is commodified. So when we look back at maybe it's Bach or Mozart or something like that, they made their money through gigs and having patrons. That's how they made the money. The rich person would fund them, and then they would get paid for putting performances on. And that's where we're up to. Because music has no value. Not anymore. It has no value, but it's always worth doing. I'll tell you why it's worth doing, because music is the thing that creates the opportunities. So it has value in that way. So you can build a business and you can make money through release. I mean, if you release your own original music, okay, you're an artist, and by becoming an artist, you yourself have much more value. So, for example, when if you're teaching, and people are into that kind of art, they want an artist to teach them, they want the production side of things, they want to know about writing, then your value is going to increase because you've got a profile. You've got a Spotify profile of music or on Beatport, and you've done all this work, so hey, that's the guy I'm going to, he's experienced, he's done all of this, so therefore your value increases. Okay. So that's like one way. Other ways you can make music is sample CDs, coaching, which is my thing. Like I really like the coaching thing. I've taught guitar for years, but the coaching thing I just find so much more fun. So there are other ways, and of course we've got gigs. Gigs aren't a bad thing. The other thing we've got is we've got streaming online, so there's another way of making money. So there are other ways as an independent artist on the other flip side of this that we can make money because we have access to more stuff as well. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it's absolutely terrible that the thing that was actually worth the most money is worthless, but worth something in terms of creating opportunities. So it is very, very important. Now, if you don't have any original music, you don't get access to all the other things. It's very difficult. But yeah, back to Spotify. So albums, we're doing single releases if you want to make money. The other thing that people do is, and I do this a bit, is consciously keeping your tracks shorter. Shorter tracks means more, more plays, more rotations, doesn't it? Which means more money because you get paid after 31 seconds or something like that on Spotify. So it's very common to see 2.5 minute tracks up there, I think that's a little bit short. you know. But when I'm starting to get over like 4 minutes, I'm thinking, come on here, or the intro's a bit long, or so music is, you know, edited. Creative decisions are made on the medium to which they're going on, which is also not right, is it really, to be honest? Although I'm guilty of doing that. But I'll tell you what, I'll think of it like this. It's a creative limitation. Yeah. Would there be a benefit for you to release an album and singles? Well, it's a lot of work. Now, what's happened in the past when I was doing like tech house and then I was going crazy with the releases, I was doing like a single release and then doing like an EP. There's a lot of stuff. However, I don't see me doing that here because there's another layer of complexity now. I'm doing guitar. Yeah. No, it's not right. It's not right, but you get it. And I completely agree with you, Des. It isn't right. But it's, you know, it's a way of doing things, and it's a way of, you know, accessing and monetizing your you know, because it's good to make a passive income. I mean, the little bits that we've made out of McRocklin and Hutch have been great. When I think back to all the music I released on other labels, that makes me a little bit eye-watering. Because those labels have got, you know, they keep my balance in the negative. I get accounts every year, and I'm always minus something. And they're always putting me on compilation albums and making sure I'm charged for it. Not that I pay personally, they just keep you in debt. And then you pay that off through basically your track making money, so. And they take your Spotify money as well. So I don't see any Spotify money. But I do see performance royalties come through. I do my music for me and me alone. That's actually a brilliant. That Des, you're a true artist, because that is absolutely, you know, when we were looking at zones of experience, and I had that little diagram up. That is a very firm connection between you and the world around you, and that's brilliant. Because that's where it should come from. So you're truly being unique there. We should never make music for others. So this is a common thing. Actually, I've got a list of I do a coaching exercise, and it's called design from design to discovery, or is it design versus discovery? It's one of those two, and basically it's a series of quotes. Questions, and you've got to change that question from a design question to a discovery question. And one of them is, and it works up sort of, I think the NLP questions, and it works up to, if I remember rightly, yeah, and it kind of works up the zones of experience. And when you get to the top, it's this one of like, I think the design question is, I make music for others. And it's, I make music for myself. Because that's where the uniqueness is. You need to make music for yourself. And then what that does is the people who like your music, because you want to be different. We're not going to be different if we're just copying other people. Or making something that somebody else is like. What does that say about you as an artist? It says nothing. And like this is like dance music's like that, you know. I've been sucked into that one. I've done, you know, trying to balance me. I mean, I've learnt loads as well. It's been a learning curve. I wouldn't say not to do this. But like one of the things was me listening to labels, which is a good way to listen to music as opposed to artists, is listening to a label to get the overall vibe. But anyway, Where do you get the most if I buy the singles? Well, I think we sell the albums on his site, and then you can just buy them off iTunes or. Oh God, that's a good question. I think iTunes pay the most. I think they do. I'd have to check. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, that last sort of like design discovery question was so yes, you make music for yourself because wanting to be unique. And basically, you know, and I've said this before, I could probably just make synthwave fart tunes, and I bet you somewhere in the world there'd be absolutely ruthlessly dedicated fans. Probably not that many, but they would buy everything because I'd be the only provider of that one thing. So that's another thing to bear in mind. It doesn't matter how diverse you're going to be. We do have access to the world, and we can build fan groups that are loyal, and you don't need 1 million fans. So that's why we do things. So yeah, low attention spans, shorter tracks, no albums, single releases. Each single's an event. Building your numbers up of followers, trying to get fans, and then making money, and then looking at all the other things that you can make money out of, because you're not going to make much out of Spotify. Oops. You're not going to make much out of Spotify. So you're looking at raising your profile as a teacher, coach, sample CDs, producing for other people, playing guitar for other people. There's a good one. Because I'm sure it's much more like, if you're a big band, I bet it's like, a good vibe to have somebody who's, an active musician producing and doing their own work as well. I can't remember listening to it. I probably can't remember. What did they release Silence, Nathan? Because somebody released Silence and then they stopped it, didn't they? Something like that. That's it, complete silent album. Yes, I did hear about that. Clever, you see. Yeah, I have heard about that. So that's clever, isn't it? That's like beating the system. And the band it, didn't they? Insane what goes on, isn't it? Yeah. So I think that's, yeah. So there we go. That's the album and the streaming and sort of covered. I mean, truth said, I prefer an album. Saying that, when you're doing single releases, what I can do, although just because I'm like in the vibe of this last song we were doing, I just want to knock something out. Back to the music machine. So one of the things that is so powerful about this machine, right, which I don't know how without it you could possibly do this, is that because you are technically working on a massive body of work, okay? So, we've got the sketchbook, we've got all of this here, we've got all of this here. Then you've got your stuff that's in process, discovery, draft, and done. And then you've got release here. And then I've got like the Hutch release here, right? I mean, just even out of these two columns, what I can do, in the nature of the machine, so if we look at Splurge, when we're splurging, it's encouraging us, to just try things out. So we can play with other genres of music. We can just we're free to experiment, and the pressure's taken off because we don't have to think about results, right? We don't have to have a result focus because we're not working how a lot of producers work in series. So what tends to happen, even though we've got instant recallers, what you'll often see, unless they've got their own system in place, is that of tracking what they're doing, is that they're going to work on one track, okay, and then it's going to be start to finish. And a lot of that can produce a lot of worry about what the result's going to be at the end, because you don't know what the end's going to be, but you're investing all your time in this one track. And because it may go wrong, and you're thinking about this, as soon as you're having any kind of thoughts or thinking along that line, you're not thinking about the actual music that's in front of you. You're thinking about all the time results, and that's incredibly problematic, okay? So the machine takes away that pressure because we've got the discovery, drafting done, and release phases of this. Discovery is just like another splurge, isn't it? We're just finding out what the idea wants to be, draft it, beginning, middle, and end, get the sections working together. Let's hear what it's like, what the arc of the music's like. That's the overall structure. See if the purpose of what we're doing changes, or can it change, or could it be something else? We can do all of that in draft. And then done's just sort of everything else we need to do to make a decision on whether we're going to release it or not. So that wouldn't be mixing. So all of that kind of future thinking and worrying is out of the way, so it allows us to focus really back in, especially on the splurging and discovery phases, because we don't have to worry about that. Now, because of that, you tend to make a lot of material. I mean, the thing about with this machine, which is weird, because you're making that much material, a lot of the times I may even feel like I'm spinning my wheels and not doing anything different. But like what I'm thinking in the process of what I'm doing in sessions is completely unreliable, because when I listen back to my material, it is quite different. Different enough, but still like of a style. But the real power of this is you can end up in a situation when you start getting enough music going round this system, and you start finishing things, and you can start curating yourself in a direction. So it's a lot easier, to build an album with a concept, because you can find contrasting tracks straight away. It's like, instead of just thinking I need a track like this to go with this one and then trying to make it, you can just find them. It's more like going in a record store, but your own record store, and pulling this music out and thinking, oh, well, that goes with that goes with that, that's really good, that goes with that, and then planning it. And then if something doesn't work, we can either go back into here, or we can go into the sketchbook. McRocklin Hutch album, I had the Riding Out, I had a track, I can't remember which one it was, but there was a track missing that I wanted on there. It might have been, what's that one? I think it might have been that one. But there was one that I'll have to remember. But there was a track that that I didn't have, that I wanted. And rather than thinking it, I thought, well, I'll go back to sketchbook. And sure enough, I just listened through all of that, and I found something that I thought would work. And sure enough, it did. And then I just took it through the machine. So the machine is incredibly powerful for being able to curate yourself in a direction. And I don't know anything else really that can do that. Not like this anyway. And especially when, creativity's been modularized and we can drop in at any section. Yeah. But as I say, like when you look at this machine here, you could make your own columns and stuff like that. But it's actually the real thing is what's under the hood, because these are just containers. So it's the actual games that we play, and the exercises the games. For example, like the one of my favourite ones, which I haven't done for a while, is when we're splurging and doing discovery, is doing the design to discovery exercise. Is incredibly valuable, because it just shows people, because we get the thing that design often gets mixed up with discovery. and we're not even kind of aware of it a lot of the time. So being able to kind of separate the two things, and then being able to see design through discovery, which is the correct way to do it, I would say. You're going to diversify more. You're going to find more about yourself, your musical self, and your music is going to, just by following the process, going to sound more unique. So I hope that helps. It's another talky one today, isn't it? We are going to do, but tomorrow we're going to do mixing. Now there's a very good question, Nathan. Would you consider making video lessons and selling them and making music lessons? No. So, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I could do the odd thing, right? But the whole point of the coaching thing, right, is it's dynamic. Everybody, I mean, in some ways we're different, but our we're the same, but a lot of the time our situations are different, and sometimes the results are not always the same. So we do need this dynamic process so I can work with somebody either on a one-on-one or in a group. Because the one thing about the coaching is, right, well, when you statistically look at video lessons, right, and video courses, this would have to be a course, it's something like 3 to 7% of people only actually finish what they're doing on these lessons. It's really, really low. The retention on video lessons is so low. So actually having people where they've got to accountable to pay for something, they've got to turn up and actually be confronted with another human being is much, much better, because it holds you, you're accountable. You're either doing this or you're not doing it. I mean, the coaching thing for me, it's when you come on to coaching, you're deadly serious. It's like, like a lot of people I'll get have tried to make, maybe when they were younger, they were making music because you kind of, you've got more time. You want that lifestyle. You have more of an idea of what you want to do. You've got less kind of life stuff in the way. So it's a lot easier when you're younger to kind of get things going. When you start, getting on in life, in your 30s, and you might have children, you've got a job, you've got like lots of things that are in your way that you have to do, and it's stopping you making music, but you're still wanting to make music. It becomes extremely frustrating. And that's where somebody like me can really, really help you, to get focused, to look at the problems and then help you come up with your own solutions. So a video lesson, you can do video lessons. I mean, I do them on guitar, and there's also a lesson, and the coaching thing are also two kind of different things as well, and I'll explain that in a minute. So there's the whole accountability side of this, so, with me, people turn up, and then I coach them and I set them something to do. They set themselves something to do for the next week, and then they just run that program. They come back to me, and then I say, right, well, how did it go? And they'll tell me the good things, they'll tell me the bad things. We'll look at the problems. Not that any of it's bad. We'll look at the problems. Just get this laid out. Through questioning, I'll get them to come up with their own solutions, and then they'll run that program. And that's how they're making new knowledge for themselves, as I said last week, and that's how you're actually getting better. But it's done through this dynamic process. Okay, that's the thing. The person who is teaching you is your music's teaching you. That's the way it should be, not me teaching you. Okay, so when we have a look at education, because it's all in the bracket of education, right? So if we have a look at, and I'll try and explain this as best as we can. So the way we have it is we have teaching, mentoring, consultancy, and coaching, and they're all fairly different things. All right, when you're teaching somebody, okay, you're installing skills. It's like you're opening the head and you're pushing information in there for them to do. So that's what teaching's doing. Okay, it's almost like they're blank. They'll have an interest in what they're doing, and you're teaching them on what to do. Okay, so these are all in, and there is some blur between all of these, by the way. Okay, it's not as black and white as this, but so we're clear. Teaching, installing information. Mentoring is it's a bit like teaching, but it's a bit like, this is how I do it, and then you're teaching the person on how to do that, basically. So it's like teaching again, but we're in a kind of live, experience. So mentoring. Consultancy, well, that's consultancy. I mean, almost been doing a bit of this now. Is you'll come to me, right? I need to release my music, and then I'll just give you the information. I'll just say, well, you can do Spotify, the results for this, and you could try this, and you could try that, and off you go. So that is consultancy. Okay. So it's like you just all the time with these things as you're installing information into the person. But coaching is very, very much different, and what coaching is helping you, preferably in its most purest form, in a non-directive way. So just purely through questioning, is helping the person solve their problems on their terms. And by doing that, it's the most powerful thing. Because, with lessons and things like that, or people giving you advice, it's not always fully based on your situation or dynamic to that. So they'll say, here's an action plan, this is what I've set you, go and do it. And then you start doing it and it's not a fit. Okay? With the coaching thing, when you're being coached by somebody, it's facilitating the skills that you already have. So it's all about you, and it's dynamic with your situation, and you are creating your own knowledge. And it's a whole new educational structure. This should be, this isn't in education, the coaching thing. It's starting to come actually, I do see it coming into the workplace a little bit. But the problem is like our education system is based on an outdated 250-year-old methodology, isn't it? It's what education's doing is it's not allowing us to necessarily free think. We're all getting the same training, and they're getting us ready for the workhouse, basically. That's what they're doing. Coaching's totally different. It's going to make, it's about independence. Completely, And when we're talking about modern music, right, and actually doing something on your own, being a solo artist, releasing music, being, overcoming uncertainty. And overcoming it, you never overcome it, you just get comfortable with it. Being comfortable with uncertainty, because uncertainty is one of the number one things that we have as a musician when we're creating. The uncertainty at every level. The uncertainty I went through when I was doing economy picking, but luckily I've had training and awareness, and I knew I pulled myself round. I don't think I would have done that if it had been pre-coaching. I don't think I would have necessarily, because other things, things that I've got to do in life come, there'll be a break in what I'm doing because, I don't know, I've got to hoover the stairs or something, and then I forget about it. Because of that training, I was able to overcome the uncertainty, because I knew, well, that's what it is. It's uncertainty, and the uncertainty is coming because I'm doing this new thing, because I'm learning something, and it's the self-one protecting me. It's that critical voice going, you don't have to do this, Tim. You can just be alternate picker for the rest of your life. You'll only be able to do 70 miles an hour, but why do you have to do 120? In 0.1 for the second, right? It'd be that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that, shut up, because I'm a bloke and I want to go as fast as I possibly can. I want to melt the fretboard just to show everybody. Yeah, and that's what I thought. And I thought, right, go away, uncertainty, die. I'm going to melt the fretboard. I'm going to wear it out through to the truss rod. Yeah. So, uncertainty is like a massive thing, and you have to get comfortable with that. Well, what school's going to teach you about uncertainty? Who's going to talk about that? Christ, I did a master's, right? Music, fine art, experimental composition. I was just told to go in a room and get experimental. Nobody told me about the uncertainty or the nuts stuff that was going to go on in my head. I was just there, right? Okay, you've done that, you've passed, right? Go out, and then just continue like that. And of course, a high percentage of people go out there and then they get a job in a clothes store as a manager or something. because they can conceptually think they can do that, but when it comes to actually uncertainty, dealing with the unknown, and there's another thing, another symptom that we have as well, is overwhelming, and it's just easier to just go to something where there's a structure, because that's how we're brought up in the education system. We'll work within an environment that tells us what to do, and that way, okay, the other thing we don't want is we become reactive, and you don't want to be reactive. So you want to be proactive, you want to be making your own decisions, you want to be the author of your own destiny. Sorry, this is sounding like another motivational talk, isn't it? Which is fine, This is me providing YouTube content live. Maybe I'll change the title. So, and I've probably told a story before about, being proactive when I came. In fact, there's two real things about that happened to me younger that plagued me basically, and a lot of it I wasn't even aware of. And that was, right, that although I was ambitious, right, I wanted somebody else to take responsibility. And I think this is a common thing. So I initially thought, right, I will get amazing on guitar. So this is like, when I was at school, when I left school, because I did my first album, I was like 17. What happened was, I thought, right, okay, I'm just gonna focus in on skills, right? I'm gonna focus in on skills, because if I become so good, right, that basically everything will align around me, and to a point it does, right? But I just didn't have any control of what I was doing. I was always working within something, and I wasn't taking responsibility. And because I always wanted somebody else to look after whether it was a label or something else, I was always putting the responsibility somewhere else, or a manager, and then completely switching off to anything that my career was doing and just going back to a skill focus. I was taking my eye off the ball, and inevitably everything always turned out like really badly and crap, just usually just didn't happen and fizzled out. But with me left with tipping all this energy into something, right? Because I wasn't being, I wasn't looking at where the shots were going. So what I had to do is I had to be proactive, and that didn't happen till, unfortunately, later on in life. And although it's never too late, I just had this massive, I did the whole thing where I was writing with limited success. I got publishing, I was writing for, little bits of adverts, I was writing for like singers, and I just shit like that, right? Just fucking crap, actually, I'm swearing now. Of not like none of this. It was all skill focused, it was all a craft, it was all like me serving somebody else. It was just awful, and it was killing me. To be honest, it was destroying my soul inside. So I had to do something about it. And then I thought, right, I'm going to be a solo artist. I love dance music. I'm going to do that. Let's go. Right. Started doing it. And then that's where the problems really started. Right. So, okay, here we go. I love dance music. I've dabbled with it here and there. Let's start. Right. What do you need to make a dance track? I need a kick drum. So I'd go, doo, 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 doo. No, that's not the right one. Not that one. Not that one. And I'd spend 2 hours. Right. Oh, that's it. Right. I'll get that one. Okay. I'll put a bass with that. No, the kick's not right now. I'll change the kick. And then I'd be left with like another track to go with the other 50 kick and bass tracks that I'd done. Hi Stallion, how you doing? I'm just having another one of my chats here, which is probably going to take most of the stream up. So I'd spend all this time making bits of tunes. I have hundreds of these bits of and I thought this is just got to stop somehow. And luckily I found a coach, didn't I? Mike Monday. And it was literally just this random video on a sample pack, weirdly enough, on another sample library I didn't need, right, of kick drums. Seriously, I'm not lying about this. It was kick drums. I was looking at kick drums, and he popped up, and he actually was talking about, making these decisions, and like, how can you focusing on the future results when you're not actually focusing on the music. And then I started I started doing a couple of like his free sort of advicey type things right back then, and he did this Focus Foundation course. So I did that, and then I did a few other courses, and then I did exceptionally. There were courses as well. So, of course, I was in such a state, right? I did them all 100% 2 times over, right? And I kind of came up on his radar, and then that's how I ended up coaching for him and being trained. But so there was that whole thing of then learning to be responsible for myself. I mean, Christ Almighty. So, and that's where, and I realized that, there was just this empty chasm. There was just me, like the music, I was not really sure what I was doing, and the world. And that was just a scary chasm to be in. But actually, I realized it was that for me, that was the only thing there that I had to deal with. Not all the other options were out the window because it was all being just being reactive to what other people said. Tim, why don't you make a song for Robbie Williams? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And then me going, oh yeah, that's a good idea, because I couldn't take responsibility for myself. But I could knock something together. You told me, oh, do this. I want this. I could knock that together and maybe give it a little bit of a sprinkle of Hutch on it, But I wasn't just being true to myself. It was awful. And I think in my earlier years, I was probably a little bit more true to myself because I was kind of making my own music, but I was just like copying in a way. When you're a shredder, you just kind of do what your idols are, and then I think, But anyway, yes. So being proactive was like one of the biggest skills, and that, and something I still work on all the time. I've got to keep it in check. It was all about just being completely responsible, being the author of your own destiny. That's it. And understanding that we're not really alone. We all have uncertainty. And we all have that doubt as well. Uncertainty, doubt. Being reactive to situations instead of being proactive, because it's easier to be reactive to be in the millhouse education, because that's how we're brought up, in school, being fed information. Right. Okay. Stillian, right, okay. Please pardon me, it's perfectly fine interrupting me, because I'm about to go around in circles. Do you think live intro is good enough for some simple electronic music, or must I buy another version? I think live intro is perfect. Live intros, much more than I had back in the day. So I think that's fine. And the other thing I'd like to say to using live intro, and another really important thing, is it's a cut down version of live, which means it has limitations. And what's good about limitations, all right? What's good about limitations is that's where creativity lives. The artist lives in limitations. Well, if you need more tracks, then that's the reason why you upgrade, because you need more tracks. Yeah. But, I mean, with 8 tracks, God, there's a lot you can do with 8 tracks. You can get it, because it's not just 8 tracks, is it? You can get a drum rack on there, and that's got 128. You can have 128 different channels going, I think, on that. If you got drum rack, I'm sure it's got drum racks. So, in the very least, you can have 16 tracks going, just for your drums. So it's 16 plus another 7. So I do, one of the first exercises I do in the coaching group is we set up a template that you then develop, and that template is literally it's called Beats plus 3. So you've got your drum machine, that's one element. You've got a bass, you've got some sort of chord mid-range instrument in the lead, and that's it, and you're good to go. and you work within those limitations, and working in those limitations creates problems, and then you can kind of come up with your own solutions based off that knowledge, the data that you're getting back. You can create your own knowledge. So working within limitations is really, really good. I would only upgrade or move on to something if there is a problem created where that upgrade's going to provide you that solution. Because otherwise, it's like you've got all of this stuff. You get the full version of everything, and it's like massively overwhelming. I mean, like Live's a huge program, and most of the stuff I don't use on it. I don't use every kind of plugin on it really much. Mind you, I do have a lot of third-party stuff, but even then, out of that, because I get a load of stuff, there's only a limited amount of stuff that I really, it's all the same stuff that you see coming up in my projects. Like sometimes I use different basses, but the majority of what I do is for bass. I mean, I use a plugin, Tal Bassline SH101, which I've always loved. I love their emulation of it. It's not like 100% exact, but it's got a sound I like. But it's set. I use one bass preset, and I just modify it. There you go. So, so that's. I think I've just. That was a good. Yeah, it was a good talk. That. I think I need to get good at the banter though. Like Thomas is really good at that, isn't he, on the lives? Although I can never talk properly because there's always a delay on my mic, so I always get a repeat of me because it's coming through his speakers back down. But it's the small talk, I need to get into that kind of, all right, what pizza shall I have and stuff like that, because lighten things up, I get too serious, I think. Yeah. But, right, so I think we've got a quarter of an hour, right? Should we just see how much damage I can do in that time on a splurge? Because I have to go at 7 o'clock on the dot. I promised that I would. But talk about the pitfall. I don't do drugs, so I don't know about the pitfalls. I mean, I've had you've probably seen that. Like, I've had enough pitfalls without actually being under the influence of anything. Music's a drug, though, isn't it? Oh, Pitbull's on drugs. Pitbull's not the pitfalls on drugs. You see, right, okay. Pitbull's on drugs, not very good. I wouldn't, actually a few prompts helps. Pitbull's on drugs, I don't know. Who would put the Pitbull on drugs? I mean, maybe if it's been to the vets. With a poorly paw or something, Right. Okay. So tomorrow, just to reiterate, we're mixing. The Pitbull's on drugs. Well, you got to. It all depends on the owner, though, doesn't it? Well, I listen to it and then I forget I listen to it and I think I'm watching the television, right? And then I forget that I'm actually on a live. And then, after I've had a daydream, and then oh god, right, and then suddenly Tim do a solo. I'm like, what? I was listening to that because I don't have a television. It's like when I'm getting kind of stuff like that, where it's just about a bit of banter and a bit of like the pressure's off. I'm like, oh, it's very disarming. I'm like, you watch me like start going back, and I'm like at home, which I am, even more weirdly doing a stream, and then can you imagine if we took the show out live? We'd probably have chairs, wouldn't we? And then I'd be like, I'd have my thermos flask, and he'd just talk, and I'd just be like. Oh, right, we're at a gig, sorry. Right. Oh, thanks, Nathan. So, yeah, I need to go to small talk lessons. That's what I need. Banter lessons. Instead of going dead serious all the time. Oops. Yeah, it's a new chair, so swearing. Yeah, new chair, so I keep running over the lead on it. Right, okay, chit chat. Let's do some music, right? Here we go. 15 minutes. What can I do in 15 minutes? Oh my god. Right, quick decisions. Probably not even working. Right, here we go. Okay, let's have that. Right, that's the drums. Sorted. So that's the cool thing about this is I can spend a bit of time, if I want to just got a couple of minutes, I can quickly make some drums, save them, find some sounds, and then, I can just go to them during a session. And, we've got them here. Right. Okay, and then switch it off. There we go. Look at that. Excellent. Right. We'll go for the noise hats. Right. I'll tell you what, we'll do this, maybe, for a change. Guessing all the time. Let's go with that. All right. Right. Arcade. So I got my white noise, and then I just need something to add a bit of weirdness to it. What can we have? That. Just pick anything. That will do. Hope for the best. Except not that. Tell you what, we'll use the proper gain staging here. There we go. Just reading the charts. Oh, thanks, Nathan. Excellent, Scott. So, digging this, brilliant. Hello, Chili. Not squishy. Righty. So, it's 7 o'clock. It's 1 minute past 7, so I have to go. So tomorrow, I'll be mixing. So we'll give it a go. Yeah, we'll give it a go, and so I'll say a few words at the beginning, open the project, and then that's it. I'm gonna have to put on ridiculous amounts of latency. Mic will be off. I'll just mix, and then maybe like 10 minutes towards the end, 5 minutes, I'll flip to a project with a quicker latency, and then I'll be able to talk. That's the thing, but because obviously the plugins I'm using, when I'm mixing, a lot of them are just like massive latencies on them. That's how they are. Doesn't matter what machine you're running. That's going to happen. So, all right, guys. So, and I'm going to take a different mixing approach as well tomorrow. Something I'm going to try out. All right, guys. Thank you for turning up, and honestly, it was great having a chat. I do like these rants. They're very easily set off, aren't they? I don't know what triggered that. We're talking about albums, weren't we? Then artists, and then off we went. All right then, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.